Jake Morrison had been sitting in the same chair for 3 hours. His back hurt, and his head was starting to pound from all the shouting. The Galactic Council meeting was going exactly like every other meeting for the past 40 years. Different aliens arguing about the same problems over and over again. The tall, blue Zephyrians were complaining about trade routes again. They wanted better shipping lanes through space, but did not want to pay for the security needed to protect them. The rock-like Vorthans were angry because someone had stolen mining rights on a planet they claimed was theirs. The fish-like Nereids were upset because 3 different species were dumping waste in their ocean worlds. Jake watched it all happen from the human section of the Great Council Chamber. The room was huge and filled with creatures from dozens of different worlds. Some breathed air like humans. Others needed special suits filled with different gases. A few floated in tanks of liquid. The noise was terrible with everyone talking in their own languages at the same time. Ambassador Lisa Parker sat next to Jake. She had been his partner in these meetings for 15 years. She looked as tired as he felt. On his other side sat Dr. Bob Chun, their science advisor. Bob was reading something on his tablet and shaking his head slowly. "Same problems as last month," Lisa whispered to Jake. "Same solutions they will reject. Same complaints they will make about us afterward." Jake nodded. It was always the same pattern. The aliens would fight and argue until someone suggested that humans should fix the problem. Then humans would work for weeks or months to find a solution that made everyone happy. The aliens would agree to the plan and sign treaties. Then 6 months later, they would be back complaining that the human solution was not working perfectly. Current argument was about the Centauri Federation and the Draconis Collective. Both groups wanted to use the same hyperspace route to move their cargo ships. The route was the fastest way to reach the rich mining systems in the Outer Rim. But it could only handle so many ships at once without becoming dangerous. For 2 hours, the Centaurians and Draconians had been shouting at each other. The Centaurians spoke in long formal sentences and bowed a lot. The Draconians roared and showed their teeth when they got angry. Neither group understood how the other one communicated. "Humans must solve this problem," announced the council chairman. He was a tall gray creature with 4 arms and no visible eyes. "Humans are good at making peace between different species." Jake felt his stomach turn. Here it came again. The expectation that humans would drop everything and fix another problem that aliens had created for themselves. Never mind that humans had their own colonies to run and their own people to take care of. Never mind that every solution they provided was criticized and blamed when it was not perfect. He thought about all the years he had spent in this chamber. All the late nights working on treaties that would fall apart within a year. All the times human diplomats had been blamed when other species broke their agreements. All the human soldiers who had died keeping peace between aliens who went back to fighting the moment humans looked away. Jake stood up slowly. The chamber became quiet as everyone turned to look at him. This was unusual. Normally, humans waited to be asked before they spoke. "The United Earth government has something to announce," Jake said in a clear voice. His words were translated into dozens of languages and broadcast throughout the chamber. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small crystal data storage device. He walked to the center of the chamber where the main speaking platform stood. His footsteps echoed in the sudden silence. "For 300 years humans have been members of this council," Jake said as he placed the crystal on the speaker's desk. "We have negotiated thousands of treaties. We have prevented hundreds of wars. We have spent our money, our time, and our lives helping species from across the galaxy solve their problems." The alien delegates were perfectly quiet now. Even the usual background noise of translators and air recyclers seemed to have stopped. "In return, we have been treated like servants. Our solutions are never good enough. Our sacrifices are never Appreciated. When things go well, you take credit. When things go badly, you blame us. Jake's voice stayed calm and steady, but everyone could hear the anger underneath. Today, the United Earth government formally withdraws from the Galactic Council. We are canceling all treaties, trade agreements, and defense pacts. Humans will no longer serve as your mediators, your peacekeepers, or your problem solvers. The silence broke like a dam bursting. Dozens of aliens began shouting at once. Some were angry. Some were confused. Some were begging Jake to reconsider. The noise was deafening. Jake waited for the shouting to die down. When it was quiet again, he pointed to the crystal he had left on the desk. That contains every diplomatic technique, every negotiation method, and every conflict resolution system that humans have developed over 3 centuries of galactic service. It is our final gift to you. Learn to use these tools yourselves because we will not be here to use them for you anymore. He turned and began walking toward the exit. Lisa and Bob stood up and followed him. So did the rest of the human delegation. 47 humans in total walking out of the Galactic Council for the last time. Behind them, the chamber erupted in chaos again. Species that had not spoken directly to each other in decades were suddenly face to face without human translators. Groups that had relied on human mediation to solve their disputes were staring at each other across the room with no idea how to communicate. As Jake reached the door, he heard the Centaurian ambassador calling out to him in desperation. "Ambassador, Morrison, please wait. We can discuss this. We can make changes." Jake stopped and turned around one last time. "You had 300 years to make changes," he said quietly. "Now you can learn to solve your own problems." He walked out and the door closed behind him. In the hallway, Lisa caught up with him. "Think they will figure it out?" she asked. Jake shook his head. "No, but that is no longer our problem." 6 months had passed since the humans disappeared. The galaxy was learning to live without them, but the lessons were harder than anyone expected. In the Altarian system, General Vexstar stared at the battle reports with growing frustration. 3 trade ships had been destroyed in the past week. The Centauran fleet was moving closer to Altarian space every day. The peace treaty that had kept both species from war for 50 years was falling apart. "Where is General Collins?" Vexstar demanded of his aide. "Sir, you know the humans are gone." General Pete Collins left with the others. Vexstar's claws clicked against his desk in annoyance. Collins had been the one who wrote the peace treaty. The human general understood both species better than they understood themselves. He had found ways to solve problems that seemed impossible. Without him, the old hatred between Altarians and Centaurans was returning. "Get me the Centauran commander." On the communication link, Vexstar ordered. When Commander Thalos appeared on the screen, his anger was clear. "General Vexstar, your ships have been entering our trade routes without permission. This stops now." "Those routes belong to both our species," Vexstar replied. "The treaty clearly states shared access." The treaty was written by humans. Humans, who are no longer here to explain what they meant. Both commanders stared at each other through the screen. Neither wanted to admit the truth. Without Pete Collins to mediate their disputes, they were like children fighting over toys. The communication ended badly. Within hours, both fleets were moving toward the disputed trade routes. The first shots would be fired within days. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, different problems were growing. On the industrial world of Kepler 186f, the massive factories that produced starship components were running at half capacity. The quantum assembly lines that humans had designed were breaking down. Chief Engineer Zorelik stood in the main factory, watching technicians struggle with equipment they did not fully understand. "Have you tried the backup systems?" he asked. "Sir, we cannot find the backup systems." The human engineer Sam Rodriguez installed them, but he never showed us where they are located. Zoralek remembered Rodriguez well. The human had been obsessed with backup plans and redundant systems. He always said that every machine needed 3 different ways to keep working. But Rodriguez had been secretive about his designs, claiming he needed to protect them from corporate spies. "What about the instruction manuals?" Zoralek asked. "The humans took all the technical documents when they left. What they left behind is written in old human languages that our translators cannot decode properly." The factory floor was filled with broken machines and frustrated workers. Production had dropped so low that dozens of worlds were not getting the parts they needed. Ships were stranded in spaceports, waiting for repairs that might never come. The problems were not just economic. The galaxy's communication network was showing signs of strain. The quantum relay stations that connected distant worlds were experiencing failures. Messages took longer to send. Sometimes they did not arrive at all. Dr. Ithara, the Zephyrian, scientist in charge of the network, was working around the clock to find solutions. But the technology was based on human research that she could not fully understand. "The quantum field generators are destabilizing," she reported to her team. "The frequency modulation is shifting beyond acceptable parameters." Her assistant, a young Calarian named Pixel, looked confused. "Can we not just reset the systems to their original settings?" "That is the problem. We do not know what the original settings were. The human technicians adjusted them constantly, based on solar activity and cosmic radiation levels. Without their monitoring data, we are flying blind." Dr. Ithara thought about Dr. Amy Foster, the human scientist who had helped design the network. Foster had always warned about the dangers of solar interference. She had insisted on building extra shielding and backup protocols that other species considered unnecessary. Dr. Foster said the network was vulnerable to cosmic radiation, Dr. Ithara remembered. She wanted to add more protective measures, but the Council rejected her proposals as too expensive. Now those protective measures seemed vital. The network was failing exactly as Foster had predicted. But without her expertise, fixing it seemed impossible. The situation became critical when a deep space observatory in the Outer Rim sent an emergency transmission. The message was broken and hard to understand, but the parts that came through were terrifying. "This is Dr. Amy Foster at Observatory Station 7. I am transmitting my final research data. The cosmic radiation wave is larger than we calculated. Arrival time is sooner than expected. The wave will affect star systems in the following order." The transmission cut off there. The quantum network relay that carried the message had failed completely. Whatever warning Foster was trying to send was lost in the darkness of space. Dr. Y.T. Hajar tried desperately to contact Observatory Station 7. She sent rescue ships and repair teams. But when they arrived, they found the station empty. Foster was gone, along with all her research data. The only thing left was a small note attached to the main computer. "The data is encrypted in the quantum network itself. Look for the pattern in the transmission failures. The answer is in the static." Dr. Ithara stared at the note in frustration. Foster had hidden her research in the network's own malfunction patterns. It was brilliant and infuriating at the same time. The human scientist had found a way to preserve her work, but only someone with her level of understanding could decode it. As the weeks passed, more systems began to fail. The Galactic Defense Force discovered that human military advisors had been quietly maintaining defensive systems across vulnerable sectors. Without their knowledge, entire regions were becoming unprotected. Pirates and criminal organizations began to notice the gaps in security. Trade routes that had been safe for decades became dangerous. Merchant ships started traveling in armed convoys, but even that was not always enough. Captain Rixeth of the merchant vessel Stardancer barely escaped an attack near the Vega system. The pirates knew exactly where to hit us, he reported. They knew our defense patrol schedules. They knew which routes were no longer protected. The patterns were becoming clear to anyone who cared to look. Humans had been the invisible glue holding galactic civilization together. They had maintained peace treaties, operated critical systems, and planned for problems that other species could not even imagine. Now they were gone, and everything they had built was slowly coming apart. In the Galactic Council chambers. Emergency. Sessions were held every day. The delegates who had once dismissed human warnings were now desperately trying to understand what those warnings had meant. "We need to find them," Chairman Mordon declared. "The humans saw something we could not see. They prepared for something we did not understand. If we cannot learn from their knowledge, we may not survive what is coming." But finding the humans was proving impossible. They had vanished without leaving any trace of their destination. The galaxy was vast, and they could be anywhere. As the 6th month after the Exodus ended, a new crisis emerged. The first star in the outer rim began showing unusual activity. Solar flares larger than anything in recorded history erupted from its surface. The radiation was so intense that it could be detected from hundreds of light years away. Dr. Ithara looked at the readings and felt a chill of recognition. This was what Dr. Foster had been trying to warn them about. The pattern was beginning. Just as the humans had predicted, the cosmic radiation wave was coming, and the galaxy was not ready. 1 year had passed since the humans left. The galaxy was dying, and everyone knew it. Ambassador Zithkara sat in the council archives, surrounded by thousands of documents that no one had bothered to read before. Her eyes were tired from weeks of searching through old records. What she found made her sick with regret. Proposal 847, Planetary Shield Network, she read aloud to her assistant. Submitted by Ambassador Kate Sullivan, Human Federation. Status: rejected. Reason: too expensive and unnecessary. She pulled up another file. Proposal 1203, Deep Space Early Warning System. Submitted by Dr. Grace Mitchell, Human Science Division. Status: rejected. Reason: alarmist predictions not supported by Council science teams. The list went on and on. 17 major proposals from human delegates over the past 5 years. All rejected. All dismissed as human paranoia or fear-mongering. How could we have been so blind? Zethkara whispered to her assistant. A young Valonian named Kethri looked uncomfortable. The humans always seemed worried about everything. They wanted to prepare for disasters that might never happen. Disasters that are happening right now, Zethkara corrected her. She activated a holographic display showing the current state of the galaxy. Red warning symbols covered nearly a third of all star systems. The economic collapse was spreading faster than anyone had predicted. The agricultural world of New Terra Prime was facing complete crop failure. The farming techniques that humans had developed were too complex for other species to replicate. Without those methods, entire planets were running out of food. On the manufacturing world of Beta Centauri, the factories had shut down completely. The human optimization protocols that had made production so efficient were lost. Workers stood idle while machines they could not understand gathered dust. Get me a connection to Fleet Admiral Doxara, Zethkara ordered. When the Altarian Admiral appeared on screen, he looked exhausted. Dark circles surrounded his 6 eyes, and his usual military bearing was gone. Admiral, what is the status of the security situation? Zethkara asked. Bad and getting worse every day, Doxara replied bluntly. Pirate attacks have increased by 400%. The trade routes that Commander Ryan Blake secured are now hunting grounds for criminal fleets. Zethkara remembered Blake well. The human had been obsessed with patrol schedules and defensive positioning. Other military leaders had called his methods overly cautious. They said humans were too afraid of taking risks. "What about Blake's security protocols?" she asked. "We tried to follow them, but they were too complex." Blake had defensive plans. Within defensive plans, he prepared for attacks that seemed impossible. Without him to explain the system, we could only follow the basic procedures. The Admiral's voice grew bitter. "Those impossible attacks are happening now. The pirates know exactly where we are weak. It is like they have copies of our old defensive plans." The call ended, leaving Zefkara alone with the terrible truth. The humans had not been paranoid. They had been right about everything. She pulled up a video file from the archives. It showed the final speech given by human delegate Ben Parker 6 months before the Exodus. Parker had been speaking to nearly empty chambers. Most delegates had found excuses to skip his presentations. "My friends," Parker's recorded voice said, "we see the storm coming. Our scientists have detected patterns in cosmic radiation that repeat every 50,000 years. The wave will make most star systems uninhabitable for at least a century." In the recording, several delegates could be seen looking at their personal devices instead of listening. The Centauran representative was actually sleeping. "We have shared our data with your science teams," Parker continued. "We have offered to help build protective measures. We have warned you that evacuation protocols will be necessary, but you continue to ignore our warnings." Parker's voice grew sad. "We cannot force you to listen. We can only prepare ourselves and hope that someday you will understand. When we are gone, you will realize what we tried to preserve." The recording ended with Parker gathering his papers and walking out of the chamber. Only 3 delegates had stayed for his entire speech. Zethkara felt ashamed as she watched the empty chamber. She had been one of the delegates who left early that day. She had considered Parker's warnings to be typical human exaggeration. The evidence of human foresight was everywhere once people started looking for it. Dr. Grace Mitchell's calculations about the cosmic radiation wave were found in the Council Scientific Database. Her math was perfect, her predictions precise. The wave would arrive exactly when she said it would. But Mitchell's requests for evacuation planning had been buried in committees for years. The bureaucratic delays had prevented any preparation for the disaster that was now unfolding. The first star system affected by the cosmic radiation was Kepler 442, the same system where Dr. Lisa Turner had conducted her research before disappearing. With the other humans, Turner had known exactly what was coming because she had been studying it for decades. The solar flares from Kepler 442's star were unlike anything in recorded history. The radiation was so intense that it destroyed all electronic systems in the outer planets. 3 billion people had to be evacuated to safer worlds, but there were no evacuation protocols, no emergency supply depots, no prepared refuge planets. Everything the humans had wanted to build was missing. "We need those evacuation plans now," Chairman Mordaunt announced during an emergency session. "How long will it take to develop them?" The Calarian Planning Committee leader looked nervous. "Without human input, we estimate 18 to 24 months for basic protocols. The second star system will be affected in 6 months," Mordaunt replied. "We do not have 18 months. The silence in the chamber was deafening. Everyone understood the implications. Billions of people would face the cosmic radiation without proper preparations. The death toll would be unimaginable. Dr. Y. to Ayara had been working day and night to decode Amy Foster's hidden message in the quantum network. She finally made a breakthrough, but the news was worse than anyone expected. "I have recovered part of Dr. Foster's data," she reported to the Council. "The cosmic radiation wave affects 7 star systems in sequence. Kepler 442 was only the first. The wave grows stronger as it moves through the galaxy. She displayed Foster's calculations on the main screen. The seventh system to be affected will be our own. The wave will reach the galactic core in 3 years. The numbers were staggering. Over 50 billion people lived in the systems that would be affected. Most of their worlds would become uninhabitable for at least a century. The refugee crisis would be beyond anything the galaxy had ever faced. There is more, Dr. Y to Achiara continued. Dr. Foster's calculations show that the wave can be deflected using quantum field generators. But the generators must be massive and precisely positioned. Chairman Mordun leaned forward. Can we build these generators? The technology exists, but the construction plans are in encrypted human databases. Without their cooperation, it would take decades to reverse engineer the designs. The truth was becoming clear to everyone. The humans had not just predicted the disaster. They had developed solutions. But their offers to help had been rejected year after year. Zethkara stood up. In the chamber, I have reviewed all human proposals from the past decade. They tried to give us everything we needed to survive this crisis. We told them no every single time. She activated a display showing Kate Sullivan's final presentation to the council. Sullivan had been trying to explain the quantum field generator technology just weeks before the human exodus. We dismissed Ambassador Sullivan's presentation as pseudoscience, Zethkara continued. We said humans were trying to scare us into spending money on unnecessary projects. The chamber was completely silent. Every delegate was remembering their own interactions with human representatives. The pattern was always the same. Humans would present evidence and solutions. Other species would find reasons to reject both. They knew we would not listen, Zethkara said quietly. So they saved themselves. The weight of their arrogance was crushing. The galaxy was facing the greatest crisis in its recorded history. And the people who could have prevented it were gone. Worse, they were gone because everyone else had driven them away. As the session ended, Chairman Mordoon made a decision that surprised everyone. We will dedicate all available resources to finding the humans, not to blame them for leaving, but to beg them to help us. It was a complete reversal of the Council's previous position. But with billions of lives at stake, pride was a luxury. They could no longer afford dot. The search for humanity began immediately, but the galaxy was vast, and the humans had been very careful to hide their tracks. Time was running out, and the cosmic radiation wave continued its deadly approach toward the heart of galactic civilization. 18 months after the humans vanished, the galaxy was running out of time. The second star system, Vega Prime, was beginning to show the same deadly symptoms as Kepler 442. Solar flares erupted from its surface like cosmic screams of warning. Captain Nexali stood on the bridge of her exploration ship, the Deep Seeker, staring at another empty human colony. This was the 15th abandoned settlement her team had investigated. Each one told the same story. Careful evacuation, advanced technology removed, and no clues about where the humans had gone. Captain, we are detecting something unusual. Her science officer reported. There are energy readings beneath the surface of the colony's main building. Nexali felt a spark of hope. What kind of energy readings? Unknown. The pattern does not match any technology in our databases. They landed on the small world that had once been home to 50,000 humans. The colony looked normal from the outside. Houses stood in neat rows, their gardens still showing signs of recent care. But there were no people, no ships, no sign of life. The energy readings led them to the colony's administrative center. In the basement, hidden behind what looked like a normal wall, they found something that made them stop and stare. The room was filled with advanced equipment that hummed with quiet power. Screens showed star maps and radiation patterns that covered the entire galaxy. But most importantly, there was a message waiting for them. If you are seeing this, And the cosmic wave has begun, a familiar voice said from the speakers. Vice Admiral Claire Thompson appeared on the main screen, her image recorded months before the Exodus. My name is Claire Thompson, and I helped design what we called Project Sanctuary. For 30 years, humanity has been preparing for the cosmic radiation. Wave, we tried to warn your governments. We tried to share our knowledge. When you refused to listen, we had no choice but to save ourselves. The recorded message continued as Nexali and her team listened in amazement. We could not abandon the galaxy completely. Hidden throughout human space, we have left monitoring stations like this one. They are tracking the wave's progress and collecting data that might help you survive. Thompson's image gestured toward the star maps on the walls. The wave is not random. It follows patterns that repeat every 50,000 years. We have found evidence of previous waves in ancient ruins across the galaxy. Each time, civilizations either learned to work together or they died alone. Nexali moved closer to the screens. The data was incredible. Detailed measurements of the cosmic radiation, predictions about which systems would be affected next, and most importantly, possible solutions. Admiral Thompson, can you hear us? Nexali asked, hoping against hope that this was a real-time communication. But the message was only a recording. Thompson's image continued speaking as if she had anticipated their questions. You will want to know where we went. That information is not in this station. But if you are serious about working with us, there are clues. Follow the old human trade routes to the outer rim. Look for the markers we left behind. But hurry. The window for escape closes when the seventh system begins to fail. The recording ended, leaving Nexali and her team in stunned silence. They had found the first real evidence of human planning, but it raised more questions than it answered. Captain, I am detecting similar energy signatures on 6 other worlds in this sector, the science officer reported. The humans left a network of these monitoring stations. Nexali immediately contacted the Galactic Council. Within hours, search teams were dispatched to every hidden station the humans had left behind. Each one contained more pieces of the puzzle. At a station on the rim world of Proxima Centauri, they found logs from engineer Alex Chun. His recordings revealed the true scope of Project Sanctuary. We have been moving people and resources to safe locations for over 20 years, Chun explained in his log entry. Not just humans, but members of every species who believed our warnings. The Calarians who worked with Dr. Foster, the Zephyrians, who helped design our shield technology, even some Altarians and Centaurans who understood what was coming. This was shocking news. The humans had not just saved themselves. They had rescued anyone who was willing to listen to their warnings. The sanctuary locations are protected by quantum field generators that will deflect the cosmic radiation, Chun continued. We have enough space and resources to save millions more. But first, the Council must acknowledge that we were right and they were wrong. Ambassador Zethkara watched Chun's recording with tears in her eyes. The humans had been trying to save everyone, even those who had rejected them. But the most important discovery came from a hidden station in the asteroid belt near Earth's old position. There, they found a message from the leader of the entire Exodus, former Earth President Matt Davidson. To whoever finds this message, Davidson began, I want you to know that leaving was the hardest decision humanity ever made. We did not want to abandon our friends and allies. We only wanted to save as many lives as possible. Davidson looked tired in the recording, as if the weight of his decision was crushing him. The cosmic wave cannot be stopped, but it can be survived. We have spent generations developing the technology and finding safe locations. Our sanctuary worlds can support billions of people, but only if everyone works together. He paused, looking directly into the camera. We left coordinate fragments in the quantum network itself. Dr. Amy Foster embedded them in the transmission protocols before she joined us. If your scientists can decode her work, they will find the path to our sanctuary. The recording ended with Davidson's final words. We are waiting for you, but we cannot wait forever. The seventh system will begin to fail in 18 months. After that, even our technology cannot protect you. Dr. Ithara worked frantically to decode Foster's hidden coordinates. A task was incredibly complex. Foster had scattered the information across thousands of quantum transmissions, hiding it in the normal background noise of galactic communications. It is like trying to solve a puzzle with a million pieces, Dr. Ithara explained to Chairman Mordaunt. Foster was brilliant. She knew that only someone with her level of understanding could find the coordinates. As she worked, more bad news arrived from across the galaxy. The third star system, Ross 128, was beginning to show signs of radiation buildup. The wave was accelerating, moving faster than even human predictions had suggested. On the agricultural world of New Sirius, crop failures had led to widespread famine. Refugee ships packed with starving families were fleeing toward more stable systems. But those systems were already overcrowded and running out of resources. The Altarian-Centauran War had escalated beyond anyone's ability to control. Without human mediators, old hatreds had exploded into violence. Entire fleets were destroying each other while the cosmic wave approached their worlds. We are falling apart exactly as the humans predicted, General Vextar reported to the Council. They said that without cooperation, we would destroy ourselves before the wave ever reached us. It was Dr. Ithara who finally made the breakthrough that changed everything. Working without sleep for days, she managed to decode enough of Foster's hidden message to find partial coordinates. I have found something, she announced to the emergency session of the Council. The coordinates point to a region called the Void Nebula. It is in unexplored space beyond the outer rim. Chairman Mordaunt stood immediately. How long to reach? This location? 6 weeks travel time with our fastest ships. But the coordinates are incomplete. We might not find anything. The Council faced an impossible choice. They could send their best ships on a desperate search for humans who might not want to be found. Or they could stay and try to face the cosmic wave with their own failing resources. We have to try, Sethkara said quietly. It is our only hope. The decision was made quickly. A joint expedition would be launched immediately, carrying representatives from every major species. Their mission was simple: find the humans and beg for their help. But as the expedition ships prepared to depart, news arrived that made everyone's blood run cold. Long-range sensors had detected massive energy buildups in the fourth and fifth star systems. A cosmic wave was not just accelerating, it was growing stronger. At this rate, the wave will reach the galactic core in 2 years instead of 3, Dr. Ithara reported. We have even less time than we thought. The expedition launched into the darkness of space, carrying the desperate hopes of billions. Behind them, the galaxy continued to tear itself apart, while the cosmic radiation wave swept closer to the heart of civilization. Captain Nexali commanded the lead ship as they jumped into hyperspace toward the Void Nebula. She carried with her the weight of every species' survival. If they could not find the humans, or if the humans refused to help, the galaxy would face its darkest hour alone. The race against time had begun, and failure meant the end of everything they knew. The Void Nebula was unlike anything Captain Nexali had ever seen. Massive clouds of gas and cosmic dust swirled in patterns that seemed almost alive. Her sensors could barely penetrate the dense material that surrounded their small fleet. Captain, we are detecting artificial structures ahead, her science officer announced. The energy signatures are enormous. As they moved deeper into the nebula, Shapes began to emerge from the cosmic fog. Space stations larger than cities floated in perfect formation. Massive ships that dwarfed anything in the galactic fleet moved, between them like whales in an ocean of stars. "This is Captain Nexali of the Galactic Council Expedition," she broadcast on all frequencies. "We are seeking representatives of humanity." "We need to talk." The response came quickly. A human voice filled the bridge, speaking with calm authority. "This is Admiral Lisa Evans of the Sanctuary Defense Force. Your ships will be escorted to the main station. Do not deviate from the course we provide." Human ships appeared around them like ghosts materializing from the nebula. They were sleek and powerful, built with technology that seemed decades ahead of anything the Council possessed. The escort guided them toward the largest structure in the formation. The main station was a marvel of engineering. It stretched for hundreds of kilometers in every direction, its surface covered with shield generators and defensive systems. As their ships docked, Nexali could see through the viewports that the station was full of life. Humans walked the corridors alongside members of other species. President Matt Davidson met them at the airlock. He looked older than in his recorded messages, but his eyes still held the same determination that had led humanity through their exodus. "Welcome to Sanctuary Prime," Davidson said simply. "I wish we were meeting under better circumstances." "Ambassador." Seth Kara stepped forward, her usual diplomatic composure cracking. "President Davidson, our worlds are dying. The cosmic wave is destroying everything. We need your help." Davidson nodded slowly. "We know. Our monitoring stations have been tracking the wave's progress. It is moving faster than we predicted." He led them through the station to a massive conference room. The walls were covered with displays showing real-time data from across the galaxy. Red zones marked the systems that had already been affected. Yellow zones showed areas where the radiation was building. Green zones, precious few of them, indicated safe areas. "The situation is worse than you realize," Davidson continued. "The wave has gained strength as it moves through space. Our original calculations gave you 3 years to prepare. Now you have 18 months at most." Dr. Ithara looked at the displays in horror. "Can nothing stop it?" "The wave cannot be stopped," a new voice said. Dr. Nina Kelly entered the room, carrying data tablets and looking like she had not slept in days. "But it can be deflected around inhabited systems using quantum field generators." Kelly activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy with projected shield zones. "We have been building deflector stations for 30 years. Each one can protect multiple star systems, but they must be positioned precisely and activated simultaneously." Chairman Mordaunt leaned forward. "How many deflector stations do you have?" "Enough to protect the core systems and most of the populated worlds," Kelly replied. "But we cannot build them fast enough to save everyone. We need the cooperation of every species in the galaxy." The room fell silent. The implications were clear. Humanity had spent decades preparing for this crisis, while everyone else ignored their warnings. Now they held the keys to galactic survival. "What do you want from us?" Seth Kara asked quietly. President Davidson looked at each delegate in turn. "We want you to acknowledge that we were right. We want formal apologies from every government that rejected our warnings. And we want guarantees that this will never happen again." "You have them," Chairman Mordaunt said immediately. "Whatever you ask, we will provide." "It is not that simple," Davidson replied. "We are not asking for your surrender. We are asking for your partnership. The deflector network requires resources and manpower from every species. This crisis can only be solved if we work together." Admiral Lisa Evans joined the conversation, bringing with her a detailed plan that took everyone's breath away. Operation Galactic Shield requires the construction of 47 deflector stations in precise locations throughout the galaxy. Each station is the size of a small moon and requires technology from multiple species. She displayed construction schedules and resource requirements, the Altarian industrial capacity for heavy metals, the Centauran expertise in quantum mechanics, the Zephyrian knowledge of energy systems, the Calarian skills in precision manufacturing. Every species has something vital to contribute. But we are at war, General Vextar protested. The Altarians and Centaurans cannot work together. Then you will all die together, Davidson said bluntly. The cosmic wave does not care about your political disputes. It will kill Altarians and Centaurans with equal efficiency. Dr. Kelly activated another display showing the wave's projected path. The seventh system will begin failing in 16 months. When that happens, the cascade effect will accelerate beyond our ability to control. If we do not have the deflector, network operational by then, billions will die. The weight of the situation settled over the delegates like a heavy blanket. Everything they had fought about for centuries seemed trivial compared to the approaching disaster. We will do it, Sethkara said firmly. We will put aside our differences and work together. You will have to do more than that, Admiral Evans replied. You will have to trust us completely. The deflector stations must be built exactly to our specifications. Any modifications or shortcuts will cause the entire network to fail. It was engineer Troy Adams who demonstrated why trust was so important. He activated a small-scale version of the deflector technology, creating a shimmering barrier of energy in the conference room. The quantum field generators work by creating resonance patterns in space-time itself, Adams explained. If even one station is slightly out of phase with the others, the resonance cascade will tear apart the entire network. Chairman Mordoon watched the demonstration with growing understanding. This is why you could not share the technology before. It requires perfect coordination between dozens of installations. Exactly, Adams confirmed. We tried to explain this years ago, but the Council insisted on examining each piece of technology separately. They wanted to understand how it worked before committing to build it. We did not trust you, Sethkara admitted. We thought you were trying to control U.S. through dependency on your technology. President Davidson's expression softened slightly. We never wanted control. We only wanted survival, for all of us. The next few hours were spent reviewing the massive undertaking ahead of them. Operation Galactic Shield would require every shipyard, every factory, and every scientist in the galaxy working toward a single goal. But first, the wars had to end. Davidson insisted that Admiral Evans accompany the Council delegates back to the core systems to negotiate immediate ceasefires between all warring factions. The Altarian-Centauran conflict ends now, Davidson declared. The pirate attacks stop immediately. Every ship, every worker, every resource must be dedicated to building the deflector network. General Vextar looked uncomfortable. My people will not easily forgive decades of grievances. Then help them understand, Admiral Evans replied. Show them the sensor data from the affected systems. Let them see what happens to worlds that are not protected. As the meeting concluded, Dr. Kelly provided the final piece of information. It changed everything. The human settlements in the sanctuary zones have space for 3 billion refugees. We have been preparing evacuation protocols for the worlds that cannot be protected in time. You would take refugees from the species that rejected you? Dr. Ithara asked in amazement. We would take anyone who needs shelter, Dr. Kelly replied simply. That is who we are. The return journey to the galactic core took on an urgent pace. Every hour counted now. Behind them, the human sanctuary fleet began moving toward strategic positions throughout the galaxy. Ahead of them lay the greatest challenge in galactic history, convincing dozens of species to work together before time ran out. As Captain Nexali piloted her ship through hyperspace, She thought about President Davidson's final words to the delegation. "We never wanted to leave you behind. We only wanted to prepare together. Now we must work twice as hard to save what we can." The cosmic wave continued its relentless approach, but for the first time in months, the galaxy had hope. Humanity had returned not as conquerors or saviors, but as partners in the greatest rescue operation ever attempted. The real work was just beginning, but at least now they would face the darkness together.